to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, there will be over 30 new Steamy VR titles released at this year's GDC, and not a single one of them ends in 3, and GameJolt releases a native Linux client. So stay tuned, and we'll tell you just what the hell a GameJolt is.
My nipples, they vibrate! And also, the Steam controller gets rumble support. And Croteam open sources the Sirius engine. My nipples are still vibrating.
Indie Game Stand, a third-party Steam key reseller, would like to tell you how bad the other third-party Steam key resellers are for the industry. And Asus releases a PCIe-only powered GTX 950 for the 3 people left in the world who want a 750 Ti, but don't already have it.
I'm Vince Stone, here at LGC Actual, running the board, switching the bits, all with the Linuxies, joined every week by Massus Fang up north.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy? And all the way from Space Portugal,
Hello.
Pedro Mateus, and together with Shat Realm and Dynamic, we form that little bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get going, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. What's up this week, J-Baby?
I started picking up Divinity Original Sin again. And I don't remember what the fuck I was doing when I stopped playing. So now, and the journal is no help either. So now it's just run around, try and rifle through all the crates and boxes and try and find everything I missed. That's fun. Actually, I'm enjoying it. So,
Beyond.
Yeah, for me, I started off the week after I got off work trying to install Dark Souls under Wine. And I knew that Lutris had an installer for that, so I tried it. It didn't work. So I poked Strider about it. It was like, oh, yeah, it's not working. Let me fix that. 5 minutes later, okay, it's fixed now. Try it. 1-click install. Amazing.
Over here, I made the mistake of finishing Metro 2033 Redux, which immediately led to me replaying all of Metro Last Light. So that was a fun adventure. Really enjoyed that. And I finally finished Half-Life 2, Episode 2, so I can join the club of going, really? That's how it ends? That's how it ends? Die in a fire, seriously. But something that should never die in a fire is our steamy, horsey overlords.
it has, and it's actually assimilated Michael J. Fox, and it's looking a bit shaky because it's our Steam Linux
Update
of the week. Yeah, we got a big old Steam update. Has a lot of stuff related to the Steam controller. One of the big ones is they've modified the haptics, or the haptic firmware, so that you can actually get a sort of vibrating force feedback type thing. And also, one of the big important one was you can get the Steam overlay from Big Picture Mode from the desktop launch, which is really handy because now you can dynamically reconfigure your Steam controller while you're in mid-game if you've launched from the desktop. And the big one here as well is you can now use a Steam controller alongside other controllers, because if you're like me and you have a zillion of them plugged in at any given time, it's always fun to unplug and replug them. And there was another thing with the overlay as well, wasn't there, Pedro?
Yes, it was. They've updated overlay support for Vulkan games, which, if you were paying attention to Chat Realm Static a while back, we discovered that while this was in beta, it was killing the performance in the Talos Principle Vulkan tests. Yeah.
One thing I noticed, I think this was already part of the beta, is they've added legitimate support for NVENCode code for your Steamy Link. So if anyone's trying that, playing that, get back to us, send us some feedback. Let us know if that has improved your Linux gaming experience.
Empty!
Right. Well, this is out now. You remember that list that I never saw last week? Well, this is what was on it. Over 30 new VR titles will be released at GDC, or at least demoed. Unfortunately, nothing from Valve. Is anything in here look fun? I
mean, Elite Dangerous looks kind of fun because you get the spaceship cockpit thing, but that's never coming to Linux. Although they apparently are releasing an Adventure Time game for Steam VR, and I really want to try that on mushrooms.
Yeah, the only one that caught my eye was Thunderbird, and besides the poor name choice right there, I was severely disappointed when I looked up the video for it and saw that it had nothing to do with the eponymous email management client.
Also, I'm pretty sure Mozilla stopped developing it as well, so
Oh, shots fired. All right. Well, speaking of VR, Valve has done a thing, man, with a bigger picture, right?
Yeah, it looks like there's a movie theater mode for Steam VR. So even if you're playing non-VR games, you can still play them with the Vive.
What is this, J-Man? Is this like a desperate attempt to come on, you can do something with it while you're waiting for all the
it's an $800 monitor, even though I'm staring at my $500 4K right now. That is all the monitor I need.
Here in Europe, it's not 800, it's 900 euros. Yeah, because regional pricing. Thanks, Valve.
I just couldn't wrap my mind around it because, I mean, outside of the, just added weight, I mean, basically, how do you sell this? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, now you too can play games while getting face fucked by a toaster. I mean, because basically that's what the Vive looks like.
I was thinking they need to make a special edition Alien Isolation one that looks like a face hugger.
Yeah.
That actually might get me to buy it.
I'm just saying.
All right.
All right. So, you may remember last week we were talking about the two-factor authentication bringing increased waiting times in case you didn't have it enabled. Say if you wanted to sell your 3-cent collectible card on Steam, you'd have to wait.
Hey, it's 15 cents, Pedro. It's 15.
No. It's 3 cents and you'd have to wait for 15 days. So at that point, people were like, yeah, but I don't have a smartphone. All right, so this is the way to do it. You create an Android virtual machine in VirtualBox. This guy actually gives you the basic rundown. You install it, and then you go to the Play Store, you sign in with your Google account, you install the Steam client, and there you have it. You have the not-so-mobile authenticator, as it were.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, I was like, well, how do I get a number with the Google Voice? Because it requires me to already have a number. Well, maybe you don't have a smartphone, you can just use whatever your current mobile is, or it'll be in the show notes along with the rest of this nightmare fuel. There's a link to a site that will give you a number to dial, you can just refresh the page, get your code, and do all that. But, my favorite thing is just watching this conversation shift, because originally it started out as like, this is bullshit. Steam should do something, and there's got to be a way around it. And this is, I want to give him credit. What's his name? Blue Soul. Basic how to get this done in a legitimate way. You don't have to worry about some sketchy ass app to download or anything like that to run natively. I mean, this is Android doing it legit.
I don't know.
Finish this thought. The way this conversation started was like, there's no way to do it. There needs to be. And he's like, well, here's a way to do it. Now everyone's going, well, that's too complicated and I don't want to do it. This is from people that don't want to have a conversation. They just want to be like, either get rid of it or right?
I mean, it does seem like a little bit of overkill, but I mean, again, if you're not actually using two-factor authentication, you're a moron. End of story.
And yeah, the people making the argument that, oh, it's too much work now. Yeah, those are the same kind of people that say they'll switch to Linux when game X comes out. The comfort zone is a fickle mistress.
I mean, I got to think about it. I think the was like, well, that's too much time. And I was like, well, what's your time worth if you're spending your days trading cards for, 5 pence at a piece?
Listen, all that time you're spending setting up your VirtualBox Android x86 machine, you could spend idling in games getting Team Fortress 2 hats.
So let's talk about Steam key reselling,
aka the industry, guys.
The gray market, as they call it. So Indie Game Stand claims that they've had $30,000 in fraudulent credit card charges and transactions from people using said stolen credit card numbers to buy cheapo games on Indie Game Stand and then putting them up for resale on websites like G2A.com. Yeah, that happened with Humble a while back when they were giving out Steam keys for any backer. Even if you only threw in 1 cent, you'd get a Steam key. That's why they increased it to $1. But yeah, they were getting a bunch of that. So this is nothing new. It's more of a reminder that, yeah, third-party resellers, probably not worth it. If games already go on sale on Steam pretty damn often, and chances are there's going to be a Humble bundle or something else, even on Indie Game Stand, if we're
I don't know. I mean,
cheap.
when it comes to things, I mean, there's a tweet right here from Devolver Digital.
Yeah,
they're just like, G2A, they're not legitimate, not guaranteed. Indie Game Stand, when it comes to resellers, they're about as legit as you can get. I mean, but the main crux of this article is what they're really on the horn about is their credit card fraudulent transactions. Somebody will get a hold of a card number, buy a ton of things at regular price, distribute those keys. They apparently don't have some type of mechanism to go back and note those. Well, I guess they can't because they're third party.
Sold keys,
right.
Yeah.
And
unless the publishers do it themselves.
They're stuck with the bill. Jordan, you got some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, you raised a valid point in the show notes the obvious way to fix that is to use OAuth, where when your keys are no longer pieces of text and are actually tied to a specific account and have some level of encryption and verification on them, you can't just take them and sell them to random people. But, I mean, even then, that's a stopgap option because criminals are going to find their way around whatever legitimate barriers you put in place. There's really not much you can do aside from, attacking credit card fraud at the source.
Right. I mean, even with OAuth, there was a way to gift the keys, and this is complete scuttlebutt. The only thing is like, well, why did Valve quit doing OAuth? I just heard this. I have no idea. I might as well just be making this up. Apparently, there was one guy at Valve that did OAuth, and he left. So,
I would actually buy that. Not a lot of people fully understand how that shit works.
What were you saying, B-Man?
But yeah, the way the conversation about the gray market and the whole reselling of fraudulent keys or fraudulently acquired keys has been going is very similar to the way that the conversation about piracy happened a few years back.
Well, speaking of pirates, guess who's there? Oh, it's Vendetta, Curse the Raven's Cry / Curse the Raven's Cry / Raven's Cry 2 Electric Boogaloo. It's back on the Steam store. They took it down, but they can't just keep a good pirate down. And they're still rocking. They are still rocking that $60 price tag, man. And to their credit, at least they didn't try coming up with a new title and putting that game on as a new title so that a whole new wave of fake reviews can
noping all the negative reviews.
Yeah. I mean, just like load that out. I mean, we have no idea why this was. I mean, the publishers have been complete radio silent. I mean, the page didn't, like Necro we talked about last week, week before, they just removed it from sale. The page was still, their page got noped. I mean, it was not there.
Yeah.
It took you back to the Steam store page. Their discussion forum was still open. Developers mum on this entire time. Everyone pretty much assumes because all the reviews were just fake and everyone white knighting the game in their discussion forums were paid because as soon as it got pulled from the store, their forums just went silent. And you don't see any of those witty retorts of, well, it works on my system because apparently I assembled the parts in the correct order.
Listen, if you have a 780, it'll work. Okay, we got a 780. Does it work? Yeah. No? Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So much for that.
Still didn't work. But Pedro riddled me this. I mean, because now the publisher is listed as Topware Interactive /ACE.
Yeah. Apparently ACE LLC, the Polish acronym is different, but yeah. They are owned by the CEO of Topware. I guess they're setting up sort of a net in the off chance someone tries to claim those IPs on accounts of Topware having gone bankrupt. So if Topware has in fact gone bankrupt and no one does anything with the IPs that they have, they'll become public property.
Well, the thing with Topware with the bankruptcy was, I guess we say allegedly, because there was that one Polish story that said that, and the only response they gave back was like, oh, no, we're just restructuring, and they just kind of disappeared from the face of the earth organ. But yeah, that I don't know what the end game is. Did you have something to say on this, Jim?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, well, they're creatively and morally bankrupt. So,
well, speaking of Topware, also they created another game called Knights and Merchants billions of years ago in the future's past. And guess what, boys and girls? Linux DMOS beta access. Hello. By the way, it's just a fucking wine wrapper port. The hell, man.
Yeah. Okay. Knights and Merchants was actually a native game from from the old days of Linux game publishing.
LGP, man,
yeah. So I don't know, why are they releasing the wine port? Don't they? Shouldn't they have the rights to the native port that Linux Game Publishing created for them?
I don't know, and more importantly to me is this is going to be our sniff test right here, because you're talking about a game that on Wine HQ has a platinum rating. Anyone could get this up and running, but there is one thing that doesn't work, which is network multiplayer. So you'll know, that's your canary right there in the coal mine. If that's a missing feature, non-implemented, it's just a straight up wine wrap. So
I was going to say they'd maybe throw this up so that they don't actually have to maintain a Linux port and just toss it in the bottle, zip it, and ship it. I don't know.
And there were a few people complaining about said wine port, because if you have wine installed on your system, every now and again it's going to conflict with the bottled up version of wine that they have. So they didn't do a very good job of isolating it, as it were. Oh, and you have to have pulse audio, otherwise not going to happen.
Pedro, from the creators of Raven's Cry, I mean, come on.
Hey, Ben, it's Vendetta, Curse of the Raven's Cry. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, that original game never existed.
Totally.
No, it's a completely different game. Completely different game.
Hey, Pedro, considering his topware, shouldn't we have ported it?
Yes. Yes. We have to talk about that at some point.
Yeah, we'll definitely dish on that in a special episode someday, but take us out, baby.
All right, are we going to do the Patreon now or before the news?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right. So we have some wonderful news. We have finally cracked that elusive $135 donation barrier on patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. You can get to there by going to linuxgamecast.com/support the shows, but where you can find some lovely Amazon links, some PayPal donato links. It's great. It's brilliant. Back to Patreon. So now we are able to do Linux Daily, Weekly, Wednesday, full time. It's a real boy. Thanks to your support, the next goal is, and get this, you get to force me to play a game I hate. You can listen to me suffer and bitch and moan for hours on end, and you might just want to go build a log cabin in the woods and shoot yourself, but that's the $200 goal. So
you better watch out, because Strider is balls to that. He's like, because I think him and Empty were in chat room static talking, and he's like, well, why don't you just donate 70 quid a week? And he's like, as soon as I start making real money, I am, because
oh man, Strider, man, you're breaking my heart and my balls. But the lovely people who made this happen are, of course, Christian S, Tech Mad, you Tech Mad bro, Che Dean, Jonathan P, and Mark C. And we love you. It's brilliant. And we're asking for is 5 cents a show. It really helps out. Running this shit is expensive. We host everything on site in case YouTube decides to go nuts and take us down because Ven's voice is copyrighted by not Ven. So
right, it's kind of brilliant. I mean, do the thing. I mean, value for value. If you like it, help keep us independent, because we don't want to be reading 15 ads like some shows. You know what I'm talking
about. I still say we should at least go for that Fleshlight sponsorship, because I just want free masturbatory aids. And on that bombshell, coming up next, news.
Hello again. It's the news. And just to, step out of the usual LGC rut, we're not starting with some drivers, but we are starting with NVIDIA, or in this case, Asus, releasing a new GeForce GTX 950, which is only a 75-watt TDP card. And that's relevant because it's completely PCIe only. You don't have to have the extra 6-pin connectors that the other 950s require. And if you look at the specs there, it's slightly lower clocked than the reference GTX 960, but it's actually surprisingly higher clocked than the regular GTX 950. So you have to wonder, 75 watts, it's got a higher clock. What kind of trickery did Asus pull to actually get this video card to work PCIe only?
Blam!
Yeah, right. Interesting piece of engineering by Asus. I mean, definitely got to give them that. But my first thought was, what is our target market for this? For everyone who hasn't already bought a 750, or more importantly, I think, J-Man, a low profile 750 Ti?
I mean, that was one of the big attractive points for me in the 750 Ti was, hey, there's a low profile version. I can stick it in my HTPC, and it's awesome. But I mean, it's good on Asus for actually figuring this out. But NVIDIA completely fucked up with the 950 because for a little bit more, you can get a 960, which is a much better card. Yep. And they really should have pushed the 750 Ti form factor, because what we really need is like good, cheap cards that you can install on any old system to give them a significant boost, because that helps people game. And
well, let's see. If this comes out at the usual price that the 950s are currently going for, you're looking at 160, 170. At that point, it's probably better to invest the extra 40 to 30 bucks to get a 960, because in terms of price performance at 200 bucks, the 960 is a much better deal.
I mean,
also, you don't have to worry about your PCI slots melting off.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Well, what's the target here? Because once you're starting in like the 950, 960 territory, chances are, I mean, this is not being low profile. You're not going to stick this in an HTPC, period. Yeah. And you're probably going to have a power supply capable of powering a regular version, which you probably wouldn't.
And even the cheaper power supplies have an extra 6-pin PCIe connector. That's what the usual 950s and 960s use. So, and going back to the power, 75 watts on the PCIe port is the hard limit. It cannot push anymore, be it PCIe 2 or PCIe 3. An X16 PCIe port can only push 75 watts. What happens when the card needs more power for cooling and it's already drawing those 75 watts?
It probably
throttle itself?
Throttles down, right. It blams. I imagine the first person who's like, it has to have.
Fury Nano also
right, because you can definitely imagine the Windows drivers probably will have some limit. It's like, nope, you got overclock, and Linux is like, whatevs, put in the value. So,
but yeah, one of the things I noticed is that they're calling it the GTX 952G, and the regular 950 has a 1024 megahertz clock. This one has a 1051 DOC version, and it goes up to 1228 on DOC with turbo. How?
Moon magic. But let's talk about security.
Oh, security is difficult, man. I don't want to have to enter a password. I should just be able to click a button and log in. Well, GOG thinks differently, and they actually think correctly, because now they're integrating a two-step login process for good old games. I think, it's they send you an email with a 4-digit security code. It's like the old Steam Guard before they introduced the mobile app and the 2 SMS thing. But let me do you one better, GOG. Two-factor. Well, the other thing is that this will only be for once every couple of logins. But you really should be doing two-factor for every login with integration to YubiKey or Google Authenticator, because every once in a while doesn't cut it. Because here's the thing about DRM-free games. If I am an enterprising young spook, I log into your account because I guessed your cheap-ass, easy-to-guess password. I just download all your games, and then whoop-de-fuck, I have all your games. Have fun with that. The other thing that they've done is they've implemented HTTPS everywhere. They said, we've long supported the HTTPS everywhere browser extension, but now we serve HTTPS exclusively. And all I can say to that is, it's about goddamn time.
Really?
Seriously.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
We've been doing that. For fuck's sake.
The bar is low, man.
I mean, James Cameron's like, man, that's high as I can get it. GOG is now using HTTPS. Right. Maybe they're still using 40-bit encryption. Who knows? It's a good thing, dual factor, but I mean, Pedro, I mean, are any fucks given considering we still do not have a GOG client for the Linux?
Galaxy?
According to them, no. I mean, they said they would do it. Mm-hmm. They still haven't done it, and apparently the Windows version doesn't work so well. But hey, while we're talking about GOG...
They've been busy. They've been really, really busy implementing that HTTPS, man, because it takes weeks and months to just install mod SSL. and buy an SSL certificate. Hell, you don't even need to buy one anymore, man. You go to Let's Encrypt.
Yeah, you go to Let's Encrypt and you apply for one. Yeah. But yeah, while we're on the GOGs, Day of Defeat. Not Day of Defeat, Day of the Tentacle.
Day of the Defeated
Tentacle Remastered has showed up on GOG, and it's Windows only. Yeah, so everyone, this is one of the old LucasArts, Sierra, at the time, the publisher, I can't remember. But yeah, this is a Double Fine game. They're giving it the same treatment that they gave
Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango, yes, thank you. So we would expect that they'd have a Linux version because Double Fine have actually been pretty good with the Linuxes, and they don't. So Ven put in the notes, has DF abandoned the Penguin? So I'm like, somehow I doubt it. So I went to their Steam forums, and lo and behold. So short answer, no. Long answer, there is a Linux version in the works, but I'm afraid it won't be ready in time for launch. This comes from one of the fine folks at Double Fine. So, yeah.
And I mean, to their credit, there's no Mac version either. There are Mac versions for all the other Double Fine games on GOG. And so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Double Fine's been good to us so far, and they've been pretty spot on with the Linux support.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can all take solace in at least GOG is not doing regional pricing for this pre-order, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Because I was looking at the this GOG page when I saw this show up in the notes. I'm like, wait, what's this off to the side? $1.60 off any future purchase. You get bonus store credit, our fair price package, to offset the regional pricing. I thought that one of the points of GOG.com was that there wasn't regional pricing. Let's say you release a $20 game, it would be $20, whatever those $20 would be in euros or whatever other regional currency. That's not the case. So yeah, this is basically GOG saying, here you go. Have some store credit to offset the fact that we've bent over for whatever greedy developer / publisher that will even consider putting their games on our store instead of just Steam.
I don't know. And I mean, it also strikes me as odd is the pre-order thing is launching on GOG as opposed to Steam. It's just this moon world we're living in, Jim.
Maybe GOG gave them a better deal. Maybe they... relax the throat and cut Tim Schafer's tentacle as it stands. But I'm excited, Ben.
Are you all out of bubblegum?
Oh, I'm vibrating. This came in, I believe it was, I think it was actually Thursday or Friday. But Croteam announced on Twitter they have open sourced the Serious Engine 1. And let me just preface by saying Serious Sam the Second Encounter is like by far one of my favorite games of all time. I played the shit out of it in high school. It holds a very special place in my heart. And now it's open source. Yeah. Mind you, this is mostly just the Windows code. Ryan C. Gordon was actually looking through this, and apparently they managed to merge some of his Linux specific code into this version, so it is there. Currently you can only build it on Windows, but I mean there was a Linux version. Ryan C's trying to convince Croteam to open source that, and he's been actually crawling through this trying to see if he can get that working. And the story behind that actually came up with this little funny commit from the Quake 3 Linux port, which when someone wants to set defaults and kill Iculus. I'm glad that never actually happened, but there you go.
I don't know.
That is a comment in the source code for
True story. I'm definitely looking at this. The Blue Raja would be proud because this thing's already been forked 98 times, so we will definitely see neat and interesting things come from it. P-Man,
I'm hoping for the Vulkan version of this, actually.
Actually, the forking thing is usually a good sign. It means that even if they go back and unopen source it, as it were, people already have the source. Everyone's got it.
Yeah. They've been doing it right since 2002. So
yeah, it's a GPL v2 license that they released it under, so you could basically do most of everything you want with it.
But do keep in mind, I mean, you need the original game, which you could actually probably get on GOG or Steam or anything like that to get your assets.
Oh, I have a CD buried somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I mean, this is a very old engine, but even back in the day, it was pretty advanced for what it was, because you could have like multiple render, like an insane number of fully rendered 3D
That and the
objects
draw
on the
distance
screen.
was incredible on it. I mean,
The water effects, yeah.
Mhm.
For like 2002 era, that was
Yeah.
and it just goes to show, Croteam couldn't go a full 3 weeks without doing something completely mentally amazeballs.
I mean, like next week they're gonna release a blowjob machine that also makes you tacos. So
Best Vive game ever.
That's
Yes.
racist. All right, let's talk about what the hell is Game Jolt Client. It's a preview. It's available for Linux 64-bit, which really should be available for anything, considering it's just a web wrapper for Game Jolt games. And well, you know, it's been fixed since, because I posted on the Twitters, I think Thursday or Friday. I was like, well, this thing's a bit meh, and the guy responsible for this immediately tweeted me, he was like, what do you mean it's a bit meh? And I was like, well, Brad, you forgot to chmod plus x the executable. And he's like, oh, it's fixed. And he's like, hammer on it some more. Let me know what else is wrong. And I was like, I'm not doing free QA for this thing. Anyway, I'm still having like Desura flashbacks, you know, hashtag triggered with this. I tried one of the WebGL games, because like I said, this is just basically HTML5 compliant browser is what you get as a client, a native client, and it worked. I downloaded one of the game hacks, something, I forget what it was called. It never launched. It wouldn't do anything. It is completely open source. It's on GitHub. There's some links in there. You can get all that business. P-Man, you had some thoughts on it though, right?
Yeah. The first thing I saw, the first thing I thought when I saw this was, okay, so this is a bunch of indie games on another obscure web store thing. So why didn't they actually talk to itch.io and make this their official client?
I mean,
because that would actually make sense.
Come on, man. I mean, you can play YOLO, you fucking what, mate? 89, 420, Flappy Bird.
I played That Dragon Named Dan, or whatever it is, because that's totally not a ripoff of That Dragon Cancer, you know, that game that's actually been pretty, you know, mainstream.
I prefer That Dragon Dancer, but whatever.
But yeah, why? I don't get it. Itch.io, it's actually a pretty, you know, ever since Desura went bankrupt.
Well, you got to look at it like
morally
this.
And actually.
Maybe this is a place, this is like a Desura 2, where games that can't get on itch.io or something along those lines, they can come over here. I'm not knocking on it simply because I don't know enough about it, and basically it's just a bunch of WebGL games that are basically utter and complete shit. It does work. It's open source, so good work on that, even though it's just basically a wrap browser and it's kind of difficult. It does allow you to download natively. It allows you to download the business, and most of them may or may not work, so take that with your own.
That Dragon one that I tried did work.
Okay, good on that. Well, Evil?
Yeah, here, yeah, Evol. It's for online vols and online vol enthusiasts. No, this is a open source Chrono Trigger style MMO. It's an interesting project, because basically the deal is it's entirely open source, so the intent is that the community can make changes to it a la Second Life. And that's about as far as I got, because I mean, MMOs don't really interest me. They fully support basically everything. They're using OBS to provide distribution on multiple Linuxes. So I mean, it's definitely a thing. If you're into stuff like Ragnarok Online and you're looking for an open source version of it, maybe check it out. I don't know. It's a French project, and I mean, it looks like the people are actually putting some effort into it, but make of it what
that's
you will.
the thing. We've seen quite a few of these 2D isometric MMOs in the vein of Chrono Trigger show up, but they tend to either get shut down because someone filed a DMCA takedown against them, or they just stop caring. And I'm looking at the screenshots here. Mana World is a thing. It exists. There's a lot of people playing it.
And
No, I mean, you can't really fault them for putting a project out there. I mean, it's open source, so check it out. evolonline.org, and the links to all this crap in our show notes. but I'm feeling a bit scummy after that. This is ScummVM, that game that lets you play Manic Mansion, and what was it? I can't remember what the name of it was, but
Man, you can play Beavis and Butthead in virtual.
You can play two of the Zorks. This is the latest version of ScummVM 180. They've been doing a lot of work on that. They've added platform specific emulation, actually. So if you played these games on the Mac or the Amiga or whatnot, you get the actual configuration dialogues for those specific things. What else? One of
the big things that I really liked is, which I didn't know, I just kind of assumed Scum ran on it, but now it supports the Raspberry Pi, which...
It may be like a specific targeting thing for the GPU and whatnot, but no, it's definitely a thing if you want to set up a little...
It makes sense that if you like those old LucasArts adventure games...
Yeah, if you want to play Day of the Tentacle on Linux, this is what you use, apparently.
The original one, since they're working so hard on the remaster.
It's Linux is hard, Tentacles are expensive.
Totally.
That is a show title.
Tentacles are expensive.
Coming up next, we move left, and then we move right, and then we move left again, and then maybe we'll murder someone. We're throwing some chairs at Hitman GO. Not Hitman GO, Hitman GO.
Definitive Edition.
Countdown pending. We're throwing chairs at Hitman GO, the Definitive Edition from Squeenix Montreal. It's developed on the Unity engine. You can pick it up for around $8, or if you're in Canada, $9,837.62. What is it? Hitman GO is a simple to play but difficult to master turn-based strategy game set in a stunning interpretation of the Hitman universe, complete with boxed board games. Has some modest system requirements because it is just a Unity port of mobile game. But let's cue the chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that's pretty good. And 4 chairs means that Ven has caught up to what I'm saying, and it's awesome. We also got a categories of doom mixed with the working shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's go already. Does it make with the working?
Honda Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 8150, 980 powered 4K displayed box of the business. Well, it basically works. I mean, it's a Unity title. They have a tendency to work, not necessarily well. And let me tell you why this one doesn't exactly work all that well. Performance is all right, but we got to talk about what constitutes working, and sometimes that's as simple as options. Well, you do have options on this. They consist of sound, music, and VSync, which you can enable or disable. Hey, look, I got a little bug. Bye. Seriously, yeah, welcome to the configuration menu, Neo. I mean, I've seen some lazy ports, but this is just like, damn, all right, let's just pull up over there. Because, I mean, there's no options for screen resolution. And more importantly, I mean, there's no sliders for sound or volume. It's just on, off. And more importantly, I mean, here's the really big thing. Resolution, maybe I can live with because you're going to play it on big picture, something like that. But if you're playing it on desktop and 4K, maybe you want to put it in a windowed mode. Well, that's not an option. Now, Pedro did point out that you can force the Unity screen of nope if you want, but, if you're doing that, just put it in there. I mean, come on. I've seen some really, really shitty Unity games at least had in-game options to set resolution. So, yeah, no windowed mode, no resolution, and on top of that, no options to adjust the audio, volumes, and or sounds. You're going to get dinged a chair for working. So, 3 chairs.
I don't know. I was going to ask before you brought up the Unity screen of nope. Would you actually prefer that?
Maybe.
It's Sophie's choice. All right, on the Fedora 22 powered 64-bit Intel i7-6700K, the GTX 980 and 32 gigs of RAM. This thing ran like ass. I'm kidding. Of course it ran. It's an Android game. It's meant to run on a dual-core ARM CPU with like half a mega RAM, or half a gig of RAM anyways. And I mean, I approach mixed with the working a little bit different. If I'm just an ass-stupid computer user who doesn't know anything about computer, then if I click the game, does it run? Yes, it does. 4 chairs. The lack of options, I mean, for the type of game this is, doesn't really bother me. I get your gripe, but I don't think it's enough to ding it a chair.
Yeah, saying it has an options menu is a stretch. But to be fair, the game ran great on the Steam box. And I played it on the Steam box because when I went to the store page, it said full controller compatibility. Okay, right. Let's install it, start it up. Oh, hey, it's working. It did come out for Android in 2014, but good on Square Enix for actually releasing it for the Linuxes at the same time that they brought it for the other consoles. So good on them for that, treating SteamOS as a proper console OS that it is. So yeah, I played this on the Steam box, which is running SteamOS 2.64. Which has an Athlon X4 860K overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and a GTX 750 Ti. So 4 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs. Makes it working.
One thing I want to add in,
all right.
I believe we were all unable to run it on the recommended memory settings of 2 megabytes. So
Yeah,
that is
2
a bit of a
megabyte
stretch.
RAM to test with.
You need at least 3 for sure.
Mm.
Up next is Shiny End Sounds. Then, now with your 2 megabytes, did it was it able to shine or sound?
It just burst into flames, son. What are you talking about? No, seriously. It's a mobile port. I believe this was originally on iDevices. When it comes to how it visually looks, let's talk about that. The players, the nondescript plastic things that are only distinguished by jackets. Well, the color, I mean, there's multiple jackets with different colors. That's it. I mean, it's kind of stylized, ageless, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't look bad, but it's not going to blow, your eye pussies out of your head organ. The dioramas, they're well done, although they're a little flat. I mean, because you basically play this in a little diorama, and it has a nice little barcode on it. And I was like, oh, nice touch. Hitman. Remember, this is Hitman, guys. Right. But what I'm saying is this. I mean, it looks all right, considering, this is an iPhone game that I'm playing on a 28-inch 4K displayed monitor, and it still looks all right. And there's no options like VSync or anything like that. It's like, whatevs. It wants to set sound. Fuck sound. I mean, I never even bothered to, put my cans on to listen to this. I just had a bit of Slayer playing in the background with a little bit of They Might Be Giants, because this is like something you kind of want to zone into and focus. So, yeah, good job. 3 chairs.
Yeah, I mean, for a digital board game, it looks about as good as it's going to. The pieces look like actual game pieces, and the boards look like game boards. There is a soundtrack. It's this light, like, elevator music jazz, almost. It fades in the background. It's kind of unremarkable, but it's not going to lose any points for that. I mean, it's not deserving of 4 chairs, but the game accomplishes what it sets out to do visually, so it gets 3 chairs.
Yeah, it's a sliding block puzzle game with a Hitman theme. You could literally replace the Hitman thing with anything else and it would still work. The graphics are heavily stylized, like Ben already hinted at, but all that means is the game will hold up a few years down the line, so that's good. The music, well, let's just say it's a good thing that they did include the option to mute the music while leaving the rest of the sounds on, because when that lady starts singing Ave Maria with a pitch that's even more annoying than what I just did, my ears just want to coil in on themselves. So that's dinging it a chair. 3 chairs.
To be fair, at no point did the vocalist make me stab myself in the testicles like I just did. So that's 3 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Control, then.
Well, your first experience with this, if you're playing it on the desktop like I originally did, was, you pick up your yellow swag gerbil as I knock everything down, and you realize that...
Cat.
I know, they're everywhere. It's kind of miserable because you have to like drag in the direction, because let's think, this was originally a swipey game. It's like, this is miserable. If I last 30 minutes in this, good on me. But what happened was, just out of curiosity and just old reflexes, kind of reach over and I was like poked at the Xbox controller and he slid. And I was like, oh shit, new dimension to this motherfucker. And it was. I was like, oh, well, because the X-Clone controller has like 4-meter long cable on it, so I could sit way back here on the futon and just chill out and play it. And 99.99% of the time, the D-pad on that works flawlessly. Unfortunately, the only time it does genuinely cock up that 0.1% is like, because at the end of certain levels, there'll be like the boss, which boss is like the last guy you got to nope. And you'll hit a direction and it'll like, no, I'm going this direction. Fuck you. That's why. And you'll get killed to death. That is definitely a thing. With your controller, you have the option, because you kind of have like this Fox isometric overhead and side view of things, but you can hit it and it'll give you a straight up view. Pro tip, if you're looking at that Fox isometric type thing, don't Alt-Tab out of the game to your desktop, because something is miswired in your brain and it makes it look like your monitor's tilted. I don't know what it is. Try it. Play the home game for yourself, but I generally like the overhead view. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to see around the corners, and it does have primitive camera control, but the problem I have with that is it only goes about 30 degrees, and as soon as you let go of it, it just snaps back to where it was. But it's a board game. You don't have to do a lot. At most, you're going to be pressing your A button to throw a can, shoot a gun, or play a banjo. So, nice game. 3 chairs. Don't play it with the gerbil. It's definitely a sit-back experience.
Well, I mean, I was playing with the gerbil. It didn't even like click in my head that this thing had controller support, so I played through however much I played through the game of using the controller. And I mean, you click and drag, and you click and drag some more. Not really much else to it. 4 chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a Unity game with proper controller support. I'll be. But yeah, this is a game by Square Enix Montreal. It's not like they've been doing games for years and worked with tons of different engines or anything. There's absolutely no experience to be had in that team, none whatsoever. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised that the controller worked as well as it did, and I didn't even know about the camera rotation or even the overhead view, because I didn't need it for the first 2 boxes, and I only really needed it for the 3rd box because there was a guy, I could see the top of his head just behind the wall. I was like, how the hell am I supposed to see that? So I started hitting the triggers and the bumpers. And, oh, okay, all right. That was a very good surprise. So yeah, for controls, I have absolutely no complaints. 4 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs for controls, and finally we got the fun segment. Then, did you have fun,
lads? I think this is the first mobile port, with the possible exception of Skyforce Anniversary, that did not completely suck donkey testicles. I mean, granted, this critter, it does start off hella simple, but it gradually ramps up to, oh, fuck this level. And trust me, that will happen to you. I mean, I've
less level of the 2nd box. Yeah.
Rage quit out of this thing more than once. You start off, I mean, it's just dead simple. Move. Then it gets gradually, I mean, first, like the altering game mechanic is like the trap doors that you can go to, and it's like, oh, that's neat. Then you get jackets to disguise yourself, and considering this is a board game, it's like, all right, well, that's a neat mechanic. Then beyond that, you get sniper rifles taken. I was like, oh, you had that with it. Then later on, you get like the dual-wielding pistols. Then it just goes haywire. I can't even imagine what box 4 has for me. Because admittedly, I'm only on the 3rd box, and I feel like I'm genuinely using my brain organ for these things. I was like, all right, let's think about this. Think about that. Ah, crap. Then I ran into the situation where I don't know the definition of insanity. For some reason, I did the same thing like 5 times in a row, and I was like, all right, then if you do this one more time, we're just going to quit. And I finally got around to doing that. But if we're just being honest, I really didn't want to like this game. I didn't. I guess we should say Square Enix sent us keys.
Yes, they did.
They did for this game, and we kind of put off reviewing it. We were waiting for the release of Hitman, which is out, and Linux gets Hitman, but it's a fucking board game. Didn't want to like it. Absolutely didn't want to like it. But it turns out, I mean, I did. This is definitely something... I mean, it's priced right. It's not stupidly expensive. It's not something you're going to sit and sink 9 arms into at one time. This is something you can pick up, play for 10 or 15 minutes while something's rendering or cooking and like that, put down, come back. And it has that brilliant little thing that only certain games do for me is I'll be thinking, how do I beat that map? If I do that. And eventually that'll squirrel enough in my reptile brain so I'll come back, start it up, and if I beat that level, then you might play the next level after that, then you'll get to another level, and like, oh, fuck that. Nope, I don't have time for that. Maybe another day. But that said, do keep in mind that this has exactly fucking all to do with the Hitman franchise. I mean, they've done Tomb Raider Go, so think about this as like Tomb Raider Go. Yeah. Same difference, but for fun, with a price, I'm going to give it 3 cheers. I mean, I'm going to continue playing this because when you have nothing to do, if you're waiting for something to do, it's good enough to pick up and just cock around with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a single-player board game. Angry Bird. It kind of reminds me of Angry Birds Hitman Edition with like the various goals and whatnot. I mean, it's all right. It's really not my thing. This game actually reminds me of a proper board game I played called Kill Dr. Lucky. Had a lot of fun playing that. But the thing I liked about Kill Dr. Lucky that I don't like about that this game severely lacks is the fact that other players can just fuck with you while you're trying to kill people, and that's what makes that fun. And really, when it comes to these sorts of tactical movement-based games, I prefer mine in the flavor of like your XCOMs or your Shadowrun Returns or your Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean, if I was playing this on like a tablet or a phone, maybe I'd have a better time with this. But really, it's not my cup of chainsaw. Move, die, move, backwards, forwards, whatever, die, move. Oh, I got it now, blah, 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 done. I mean, like I said, it's okay. I understand what it accomplishes what it sets out to do. I just don't particularly enjoy this type of game, so I'll give it 2 cheers.
Yeah, it's an Android game through and through. You can get through missions anywhere between 30 seconds and 10 minutes. Again, that last mission of the second box still stuck in my head. But it's well done, and really the only reason I can't give it 4 cheers for the fun is because the desktop/Steam machine medium doesn't lend itself well to this particular kind of game. If I'm slouched on a couch or sitting on this admittedly very expensive chair, I want a proper gaming experience. Hitman Go is much better when you're, say, sitting on the toilet with your tablet or your phone. Especially if you had a lot of fiber to eat in the last few days, and it may take you a good few minutes to get it all out. It's amazing. You can get through quite a few levels then. Every time I started a game, about 10 minutes later, I would have finished a few missions, and I was satisfied and decided, since I was sprawled on the couch, I might as well just play some Grid Autosport or The Binding of Isaac. And having a game that makes you want to play other games.
Watching at home, that's exactly what he did, because I was playing some video games and I watched him go from Hitman to Grid to Binding.
Because if you have a game that makes me want to play other games, that's not exactly a point in your favor. Also, I'm not sure $8 is the right price point, but for an Android game, wait, we're talking about Square Enix. They have a $20 game on the Android Play Store. Right. Never mind. 3 cheers.
All right, so that's 2 cheers for the fun. And if we tally all this garbage up, we got 2 cheers for Hitman Go. I'd say throw an asteroid at the end of that, just because we got 2 guys who enjoy it, and I just don't really like this sort of game. So, gentlemen, final thoughts.
At the end of the day, take that shot, because it's a little bit of addictive, Brad. It just is, and it really it is a way. I think the best way to describe this is when you're sitting back. I mean, if you have a Steam box or if you have a big picture mode and a long controller, wireless, or anything like that, I'd like to call it relaxing assassinations, because it's like
relaxinations.
You know what I'm saying?
Relaxination. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the Hitman theme is purely visual. This is, as Jordan mentioned, a single-player board game. It's well done, they've boiled down the mechanics to the bare minimum, which, in its original Android medium, is fine, but on a proper gaming machine, it feels a bit lacking.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this game is not my dice, because if I'm going to be playing a game where I move around and kill stuff, I'd rather be playing D&D. Coming up next, we got some hate mail for you. that was severely truncated. And when I say truncated, I mean, I don't even know what I mean. Cut it. Shut it down.
Well, would you look at that? It's hate mail time already. And look, at this point, you have to know how to get in touch with us, because if there's anyone out there who does not, what the hell? But, you know, just in case you're one of those people that's watching the show for the first time, shame on you. You should go back and watch a couple of episodes prior. It's good stuff, but you can always get in touch with us over on LinuxGameCast.com. Push the contact button, fill out the form. It's easy enough. If you're trying to promote a game, if you don't send us a playable build or some Steam keys for your early accesses, well, we're just going to make fun of you. All right? Okay. So, what do we got up this week? No, Mr. Nehemiah.
Nehemiah, and he says, I've been hearing a lot about this Firewatch, which has a Linux client, but it sounds like you give preference to devs that give you review keys to play with. Did these devs give you some? Would you be willing to check out such an acclaimed game without them? Is that why you haven't reviewed Magicka 2? Well, here's the thing. Yes, we do, in fact, give preference to people who give us keys to review things. Because clearly they want our input to the point where they're willing to fork out the keys, right? Makes sense? Not really. Who cares? I mean, I have no real objection to reviewing it. If it's like a dead week and nothing comes out, we might check it out. What's the price at these days?
I don't know. I mean, go ahead and take a look at that.
Yeah.
With that particular game, we have no issue buying game, and like super cool game comes out.
We will buy it out of spite sometimes.
Sometimes, and we've spent quite a chunk of change purchasing games ourselves. But yes, kind of like in early 2016, like starting off this year.
So it's $20, but
yeah. J-Man and I were talking, and there was like, man, look at all these games that we never get around to reviewing. And sometimes we kind of feel bad because it's a small developer, publisher, and they might have a really cool game, but then, you know, it's horrible that like then Feral will drop some sauce or Aspire will drop some sauce, and we're like, do review this game that has 4 reviews, or do review Grid Autosport? I mean, we kind of got to do Grid Autosport. It's horrible. But with Firewatch, speaking of Aspire, who published what was it? Layers of Fear.
3-layer fear cake burrito.
Yeah, we kind of came out of the gate with getting our Walking Simulator 2016 over with for 2016 because this, what's the name of this game again? Firewatch?
Firewatch.
It's effectively the same thing. It's a walking simulator, a la Gone Home. And if you don't want to take our word for it, maybe you want somebody, and you're like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Listen to Yahtzee. Yahtzee did a Layers of Fear and Firewatch 2
on the same video
on the last Zero Punctuation, and he's like, yeah, walking simulator review for these 2 games. And believe it or not, we don't want to intentionally. I mean, sometimes hell, we got a fucking chest full of games that we're like, we're not going to review that because that game's shit, and we don't intentionally want to just run games into the ground unless there's a week when we're really bored. The biggest thing I have against Firewatch, much like I did with Layers of Fear, is it's more of an interactive story versus a proper game. I don't know. That's just my opinion, man.
Yeah, I did send the Firewatch guys an email about it, but they never got back to me. But Rohit and Chad actually said that Firewatch, just watch a fucking video. And I kind of have to admit, because it seems to be the kind of game that you get the exact same experience out of watching someone else play it than if you play it yourself.
But you get the added benefit of having someone's like tiny little annoying green screened head in the corner screaming while playing it.
I didn't watch PewDiePie's Let's Play. I don't even know if he played it. So
neither do I. But if we were gonna do it, we totally have Pedro's head, but it would be like Ven or I playing.
No. What we need to do is we need to work out the TCP/IP shock collar protocol, and then we'll put one of us up playing the game while the other person has control of the button.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good times. And on that bombshell, let's cue the music.
Why not? Because you could always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time, which is about to change to Eastern D Moon Time. Giggity.
Give us the D.
at Vinstone. You can always find me at Vinstone on the Twitter nets, plus Vinstone on the G pluses. Scream at me. I do my best to get back to everyone. If I miss something, scream at me again, because more often than not, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to reply to that, and squirrel, and it just ends up never
playing
happening.
Hitman GO for 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm Jordan Spung. You can find me at the Burning Pool on Twitter, plus Jordan Spung on Google Plus. Not playing Hitman GO.
Yeah, because Jordan's a heathen. Yeah, honestly, I don't know if I'll be playing it, but I am Pedro Mateos. You can always find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter, or plus Pedro Mateos on Google Plus. And like Ven, I will also sometimes forget to reply to people who leave comments on my things. Again, remind me, because squirrel.
Yeah, and the thing with comments, a little bit of social etiquette. I'm not picking on anyone, because there's about 4 or 5 people that kind of get in the habit of doing this. I think we'd all agree. You know, if you had us on Steam, any of us, that's great. We'll chat back and forwards with you. Don't send messages about something you want a response to through Steam, because 9 times out of 13, the only time I see that is when Steam closes. It's like, oh, somebody sent me a message. And the other thing, that's just bad form. Don't send a person a message when they're in the middle of a game, because, I'm in immersive. Oh, look, somebody wants to. Don't do that. You wouldn't want somebody
we got
doing
the
that.
Twitters, we got the Google Plus.
Right.
Use that.
Or just wait. I mean, when you're not in a game. And I guess at the end of the day, what we've learned today is there are only 4 dudes.
Yes.
Yeah. We need a 5th to complete Cocaine Voltron. It's true.
Well, you could use one of the clones you have in storage. That's kind of creepy, though.
That's the last resort.
We call them tube steak.
It's kind of creepy. I walked in there the other day, and it's just, okay, my ego loved it, but...
No, don't worry about it. We've already licensed them to Real Dolls.
Yeah. All right.
5 dudes.